Which model should I get? Is the Mini 2 good enough? Is the Air 2S worth the extra money over the Mini 2 or the older Air 2? Or should I just wait for the Mavic 3 Pro? These are the questions I'm being asked about most these days, and so that is what I'm talking about today. Hello, I'm Ian and I play with drones. Today I'm taking a quick look at 5 of the more popular models of folding drones. Primarily, admittedly, I'm going to focus on the Air 2S, the Air 2 and the Mini 2, as it's these 3 models that I'm being asked the most questions on. And these questions are normally going along the lines of which is best, which is good enough, and as I said more recently, should I actually just be waiting for the 3 Pro? So what I want to do today is just go through some of the main elements that may be important to you, as of course there is no single straightforward answer. But look, first off, I wanted to start with the Air 2S, as this has got the most features and the highest specs. But as mentioned, it's not necessarily the best model in all cases. It is true that the Air 2S has now brought the Air range, line of models if you like, up to almost matching DJI's flagship model, the Mavic 2 Pro. It's brought a wealth of top-end specs that, to be honest, far exceed most users' actual requirements. It's brought the huge new 1-inch 20 megapixel sensor and 10-bit colour to produce simply stunning still pictures in both JPEG and RAW output. It's also brought the new ultra high definition video resolution of 5.4K, utilising all 20 million pixels. And I've got to admit, whilst that's nice, with the absence of most monitors or TVs that can actually handle 5.4K, I do kind of wonder how much benefit that is, other than the ability to have a bit of lossless cropping, if you like. But of course it has other resolutions of 4K, 2.7 and 1080p, and to be honest, they're a bit more useful for everyday filming. It can shoot slow-mo right down to 120 frames per second at 1080p, and it can also shoot video, the bitrate at 150 megabits per second, which is a new high in video recording bitrate. So in short, the 2S is an absolutely stunning top spec camera. It only falls short from the 2 Pro's camera by the lack of variable aperture. Otherwise, it's as good or better in every other aspect than the 2 Pro. Drone itself has got a wealth of other functions and features, including obstacle avoidance in 4 directions, giving truly amazing obstacle avoidance. I did my best to try and crash it and failed, as you could see in another video. It's got APAS to assist and steer the drone around obstacles, and it's got the full suite of quick shots, giving you orbit, rocket and all the others. But it also introduced a new master shots feature that combines multiple quick shots, giving you a mini movie centered around a central subject that is shot completely autonomously and without the need for you to be holding the remote, which I think is quite an impressive little feature. Other specs that pop out to me are the new OcuSync 3 transmission system, using DJI's new standard remote control, of course, and promising signal range of far beyond really of what you'd be flying every day. 12 kilometers, 7 miles, slightly lower if you're on the CE or in European countries. But either way, what that means is you're going to be suffering fewer signal dropouts. It's got a faster ascent speed and a faster descent speed, and it appears to me to be the best of all the models in handling very strong wind. It's 595 grams, so it's a little bit larger, and in Europe that means that it's kind of relegated to open countryside flying, unless you've got the A2 CFC, when you can then fly inside congested areas, but of course you've still got to maintain that 50-metre horizontal distance from uninvolved people. But in short, look, as of today, this is pretty much DJI's top spec model in their folding drone range, even beating the 2 Pro in many cases. So next up, I wanted to take a look at the older version of the Air 2. This was itself an enormous upgrade from the original Mavic Air, and is still a stunning model. Its main difference from the Air 2S is of course the camera. It's got a smaller sensor, only around ½ an inch, producing only 12 megapixel stills and shooting video up to 4K at up to 120 megabits per second bitrate. Interestingly, if you are after super slow-mo, then it's actually the original Air 2 that is the better model, as it shoots up to 240 frames per second at 1080, whereas the Air 2S can only handle 120 frames per second. Smaller camera and smaller gimbal also reduces the weight slightly down to 575 grams, but crucially that also extends the Spec max flight time up to 34 minutes, 3 minutes more than the Air 2S. But look, in practice, you're only going to get probably around 25-26 minutes of usable flight time before the old return to home starts kicking in. But yeah, like I said, a slightly longer flight time with the Air 2S. Its range is also slightly less than the Air 2S. It's using OcuSync 2, but it is still way beyond anything that you're going to be flying on a regular basis. And as I said, what it normally means is that you'll suffer far fewer signal dropouts. Flight-wise, it's got a slower ascent and descent speed than the Air 2S and also than the Mini 2, which I found a little bit surprising. But with the same maximum overall speed as the Air 2S, it is easily going to handle very strong wind, pretty much just as well as the Air 2S. So look, to me the bottom line is the original Air 2 is almost identical as the Air 2S, apart from the camera and some of the camera functions. It is still a great bit of kit, but unless 240 frames per second is your thing, there's no doubt the Air 2S is a far superior model because it has a far superior camera. Therefore, for me, that's very much, the Air 2S is very much the better of the two models. And then finally, we have the Mini 2. Look, when the original Mini came out, it was an absolute game changer. For the first time, you had a sub 249 gram model that was providing gimbal stabilized high definition video. But the Mini 1 did have its shortcomings though, notably a lower maximum video resolution, no raw picture file output, and of course its poorer Wi-Fi transmission system, along with a slight tendency to sometimes be overcome by strong wind. The new Mini 2 seemed to fix all of those issues. For starter, the Mini 2 has got a similar camera to the original Air 2, namely a 12 megapixel stills in both JPEG and RAW, and full 4K video. Its maximum bitrate for video is slightly lower, 100 megabits per second, but that is still a mighty fine value for video bitrate. The slow-mo isn't quite as slow either. 60 frames per second is as slow as you're going to get with the Mini 2. But look, as I said, let's not forget its size and its price. You are getting 12 megapixel stills, 4K video on a 3-axis gimbal that for most will give you absolutely super smooth, ultra high definition video. Key point though is the lack of obstacle avoidance and also active track or follow me on the Mini 2. But I guess you can't have everything, can you? But it does have OcuSync 2 transmission, and it is controlled as well by the new style remote control. So it's got pretty much the same range as the Air 2 and almost the same flight time, 31 minutes. Its max speed is a little bit slower than the Air 2 and the Air 2S, but it can still handle strong wind far better than you might think. Just last week I was hiking in North Wales, and at the extremely windy mountaintop the Mini 2 handled itself absolutely perfectly, producing what I thought was simply stunning pictures and videos. And that is where I think the Mini 2's biggest advantage comes in, because it's the ultimate travel drone, being light enough to put in your backpack and you'll barely notice it. And if you're camping, you can actually recharge all the batteries from any power bank without needing a mains charger. Likewise, if you're in the car, then you can make use of any car, mobile phone, USB-C phone charger. So the Mini 2 really is the perfect travel drone. Its size and weight also helps you fly in more places as well. Certainly in Europe and the UK, being under 250 grams means you can fly in almost all towns and cities, as long as you're not in restricted airspace or over crowds. But you can fly right over uninvolved people without that 50 metre minimum distance, horizontal distance requirement that the larger models have. So again, this makes it a top contender for commercial work too, meaning it's minimizing the permissions that you're going to need in actually trying to do your job. So that is why, for me, despite not having all of the top specs, I still think the Mini 2 is the most amazing model that DJI produced today. It's not necessarily the best, but it is easily the most amazing in my opinion. You get almost all the features of a top spec drone with the freedom to fly anywhere and pack it away in the smallest of backpacks. And for me, that makes it a real winner. But this is, as I said, where I have to end up saying it is not straightforward and there is no simple answer. The Air 2S is probably the best camera you can get on a folding drone today. Apart from the lack of a variable aperture, the Air 2S is every bit as good as the old Mavic 2 Pro and the larger Autel Evo 2 Pro. In fact, I brought the two Pros along to actually show you today how, whilst these are clearly flagship top spec models, I actually don't consider either of the 2 Pros to be worthy purchases today. The Mavic 2 Pro is due to be replaced this year by the 3 Pro, but do you wait a month? Do you wait 6 months? Who knows? And likewise, the Autel Evo 2 Pro is a perfectly built and fantastically engineered model, sporting almost identical specs as the Mavic 2 Pro and the Air 2S. And it actually has the longest flight time of any of the models here, at a full 40 minutes. But the plain truth is, newer models have come along, and the DJI Mavic 2 Pro and the Autel Evo 2 Pro are both older models that are extremely large and expensive in comparison to the Air 2S. And that is why, to me, it comes down to the Air 2S. If you want absolute top quality picture and video, a vast array of useful, intelligent functions, and truly amazing obstacle avoidance. But the Mini 2 is also a fantastic model that is perfect for travel. It's easier to charge and lets you fly in way more places. And that's why, for me now, I now consider these 2 models, the Air 2S and the Mini 2, as my 2 top models and the ones that I use most often. So look, there we go, awful lot of facts and specs there, coupled with some subjective thoughts at the end, but look, hopefully that will help those of you considering an upgrade or first venture into the world of drone photography and videography. Look, as ever, if this is useful, give me a little thumbs up, always helps the cause, and obviously hit the sub and ding the dong to get notified when I put something new out. I've also got a couple of channel membership options too now, letting you get a little bit more behind the scenes and to get in touch directly with me if you've got any drone issues. But look, either way, as I said, hope you found it helpful. Wherever you are, whatever you're doing, until next time, have fun, happy flying.